I got it. You get it? Okay. Okay. All right, I've got 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Dwight Jewell here, Jerry Ford, here. Rachel Jones, absent. Ken Buckmaster, here. Shane Burton, here. Gary Clarity, here. Bill Ferguson, here. T. Bubba Gregory, here. Landon Gully, here. Richard Harsh, here. Gary Walsh. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Glad we have some other members of the commission with us tonight, and we'll thank you for being at this meeting as well, and the members of the public and department heads that we have here with us as well. First order of business would be to review the minutes from the June 21st, 2021 meeting. You have them on the back side of your agenda packet. Are there any corrections, deletions, or additions to those minutes? Mr. Harsh?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Have a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Clarity makes the second. Have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Clarity. We want to, okay, let's just do that next time. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we'll go into the county trustee report and the financial summaries for June. The year end is still in progress. There are still a few things that are outstanding. So a lot of the entries are not complete, not 100% complete. The ones that are have final in red at the top. If you don't see that, then they're not. The trustee statement is accurate and final for the end of June because it just reflects the amount of money that's in these various accounts. Did anyone have any questions on the trustees report for June? No questions? Okay, we'll move on into the financial statement, summary financial statement. Start with the 101 general fund. Of course, we're showing at 100%. We're at the end of the 12th month. So that's the figure that you're looking at to compare to. Going down the line, there's a few things that were higher or a bit lower, which is to be expected. Some of those things are not come in fully yet. So some of those totals may change, as you're well aware.
That was my question. Have we received all the revenues for the town?
Not quite. Yeah. There'd be a few things. Some of the things run 2 months behind before we get them. And that's what, particularly things that come in from the state. Right, right. Okay. We did include the CARES Act and CAMS funding in yellow. So you can see that included in the revenues. Speaker, you turned me off or did it turn me off? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Mr. Ford.
How much of the grant down there have we spent already?
CARES Act and 10
Yeah, CARES
CAMS,
Act.
I think is this question.
What you see as actual, excuse me, what you see as budgeted is what we have appropriated. And that's what we have spent. What we haven't spent as of June 30th is going into reserves, or some of it has been budgeted in the 2022 budget.
Okay.
And I tried to note those items on your budget
I
worksheets.
saw these 3 items.
Well, even in your budget worksheets, when we were going through budget hearings, those items were noted that these are being funded by that grant.
Basically, that's coming out of the.
I'm sorry.
said the biggest majority of that we were talking about noted was going, I believe we put that payment for trying to move to our 2-week, trying to move to a direct draft, was those budgets, all those
Roughly about
bonuses all came out.
roughly about 120,000 was allocated towards that.
Any other questions on the revenue side? Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add on that? Okay. All right. Move into the expenditure side, the 101 general fund on page 4. There again, looking through it, the things that are a little bit over, a little bit under, are relatively small amounts. I didn't see anything that was just a big major amount of money that would show us any concern whatsoever. The good thing is that if you look at the total, we're at 85% of our budget. Of course, like I say, there are some things that always come in at the very last month, last minute. So expect that to be a little bit more than that, but I wouldn't expect it to be substantially more than that. Looks real good, I think. I'm really appreciate the job the mayor and Amy and all the department heads have done at keeping the budget in line. Any questions on the 101? Okay, move into the 111, urban services. Go down the line in it. Property tax, we were at 103%. Probably the low item there is interest. We know that interest went down quite a bit this year from what it was previous years. So I think that's reflected in that figure. But right now we're at 94% there. Is there more monies to come in revenues on 111? Thought so. Expenditures, we're at 82.2. Either way, we're going to be under budget what we got in revenues versus what was spent. Good position to be in at the end of the year. 116 solid waste. Page 7. Any questions on it? Looking down the lines, we had some things, business tax came in, I think this year a little bit more than anticipated, strictly because we had some larger entities that their business tax amount was a little bit higher than just somebody starting out a small one. So I think that made the difference on that one, accounting for that big jump there. Any questions on it?
What's the other state revenue?
46,990 other state revenues. We had budgeted 4,000, got 7,875. Typically that's miscellaneous grants and things of that nature. Is there anything in particular, Amy, that you recall, or Mayor?
I believe there's a tire waste grant, but that is what's showing.
Any other questions? 118 ambulance service fund on page 8. Revenues 93.9. There again, there are some more to come in, I believe. Interest was a little bit lower than normal. Anything there to point out, Mayor? Amy? It is what it is. Any questions on the 118? Right.
It is about a month behind, and they just haven't been collecting as much as they have in the previous years. It's up to date. They're just not having enough charges as they used to.
I think the run volume was down probably counts for most of it, my understanding.
Oh,
They-
also, I believe that I've been told that they've stopped doing the dialysis runs, which was 3 times a week. And so that was quite a bit of the patient collections. I don't believe so. And I could be corrected by Matt Beatty if he appears.
Even when it was going, when you have a situation where you have a lot of patients, it's only for a temporary time. So that being the case, yeah, it's hit and miss. There's no guarantees on that. Do you know whether or not our calls to the prison out there have lowered as well this year? I know there's a certain percentage of that does go out there. Of course, you can't control any of that, but
Mayor, can you answer that question?
Yeah, TDOC has asked the prison to cut out, try to minimize sending prisoners outside the facility as much as they can. So they've tried to reduce their call volume. They've actually increased and tried to increase their medical services there inside the prison. So they're trying to cut back on sending anybody outside the secured facility.
due to that, so you would say that some of the deficit here is probably related to that?
Some of it probably is, but also they also tried to keep anybody from leaving the prison during COVID. So that cut down on it as well.
Okay.
And I also talked to Director Beatty. He said there was a lot of people that cut back and didn't want to go to the hospital due to COVID. So they weren't doing as many runs as they were before.
Any other questions? Move on to 121 Special Fund Core Civic. This is the pass through. 122 County Drug Fund. There again, a little control over what we get or what's spent on that one. I guess you could call it a pass through. The 151 debt service on page 11. These are final figures, I do believe, on all of this. Shows our revenues were at 107% of what was budgeted, and our expenditures were 91.9. That's because of our mandate from the comptroller's office as to what we can budget. Always makes your budget projections look less than what you're actually wind up with, hopefully, and in this case it did. Also, you can see that the variable interest rates has dropped to an all-time, I think, second or third lowest amount for the year at 1.291 at the bottom. 1.251 or 1.261. We had several final payments, as noted, the patrol cars, the roll-off number 2 was paid out, paid off, and hopefully our plan is to do a debt snowball and roll some of those into some of the other payments and try to reduce these as quickly as at all possible. Once we get all our final numbers in, we may actually look at trying to allocate some more funds into some of these. We'll know for sure where we stand before we do that. Any questions on the debt service fund? Next, our 156, and that's the education debt service. That's where your wheel tax comes in, what little bit of investment income we had from the money sitting in the bank, and contribution from schools on their portion of what they're supposed to be paying for. Any questions on it? Looks as if it's where it's supposed to be. Mr. Ford.
The actual, is that how much we actually took in on the wheel tax this year or last year?
Yes, it is. And I really shouldn't have marked this as final. We have one more month that needs to be added to these numbers. So They're actually, the revenue is actually going up.
Went up some, more cars.
On wheel tax, or what will it be on?
So about 30,000 will be added to the wheel tax line.
Like we had noted in previous months, a lot of the new car sales and a lot of that comes in the springtime. A lot of people typically buy new cars at that time. Mr. Gregory, do you have a question? Okay, okay. All right, any question on it?
Not a question, comment about, no, that new car sales.
Turn him on. Yes. Are you on? There we go.
My comment was that new car sales are way down. Because they can't get them, those chips, so that might affect you next year on sales. I don't know if it will or not, but it may.
Certainly made a big demand on used car sales, I
Right.
think.
Can't find them either.
I know. A lot of things are hurting right now for product and personnel. Anything else on education?
Yes, Mr. Jewell. Do we know how much money we're gonna have left over when we pay the school off? Any idea?
Don't think we've computed that yet exactly, have we? The question was how much we're going to have left in the wheel tax once the final payment is made on the high school.
I think I came up to where about 191,000 was going to be left after next year, after all payments were said and done. I forget what the continuation of that conversation was as to what we were going to do with those funds.
Yeah.
I believe it's going to be moved to the middle school roof loan to keep it within the education and within the school.
We'll have to use it
school
for
loans.
education debt service, and we can use it for that was our plan. But until we know exactly what we're going to have in those months coming in during that period of time, we don't know exactly what that amount of money is going to be.
So roughly in the neighborhood of somewhere, possibly $200,000.
We think a 150 to 2 probably is best guesstimate. I know that's a broad guesstimate, but that's, I think where we're at.
That'll give something to think about.
Yes.
On what we got.
Yes, yes. But like I say, until we get to that final day on that, we're really not going to know what the amount's going to be. Move to soil conservation. I'm sorry, that's budget amendment. I'm jumping way ahead here. I'm sorry. I think that's it in our financial statements. Is that correct? Okay. Any question on any of the financial statements or trustees' balance before we close out on it? Have a motion to approve the reports. Mr. Harsh makes the motion. Mr. Ford makes second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. They are approved. Okay, next we'll move into our budget amendments for tonight. First is in our 101 County General Fund. That's Amendment 2022-101-01 FB. This is for soil conservation services. This will be a fund balance draw if it is approved. USDA Soil Conservation Office received a request from the Natural Resource Conservation to add the position of a soil technician to the office. This will be a joint funding between Natural Resource Conservation. We'll be paying $12,000. Tennessee Department of Agriculture would be paying $9,000, and the county would be paying $9,000 toward this. Anybody, Mayor, can you add any more to that? Did I explain it well enough?
Yes, sir. That's how it was transmitted to my office, and I believe there are some representatives here from the Soil Conservation that can speak to it or answer any questions. And I asked if they could come forward to this microphone up front. And kind of the front of that little, where it says Televic, if you're looking in front of it, there's a little button you can put.
It's on, it's on. You might want to push the microphone down more toward your face. There we go.
All right. I'm James Fisher, Chairman of the Soil Conservation District. And this is Mary Grace Gregory. She's the secretary. And Mr. Eric Copus is the district manager, and he will explain what he's wanting, or what we're wanting.
What we're doing.
Anytime you're spending money, you got questions, I'm sure, but yeah, I would entertain any. A lot of folks, I would add, a lot of folks don't even necessarily know what the soil conservation does, the district, or for us, the Natural Resources Conservation Service. I'd give you just a real quick spiel, if that's okay, and take up too much of your time. NRCS was founded as the Soil Conservation Service, basically out of the Dust Bowls of the 1930s. It was founded primarily with the philosophy that a country that degrades its natural resources eventually bankrupts itself, pretty much. And you can look through the past, and that's clearly evident. You know, if you look in the Bible, the land of milk and honey is no longer the land of milk and honey. It's a desert, a vast majority of it. So we were formed out of the Dust Bowl era to try to conserve our soil resources and try to keep fertile land on the nation as a whole. So, and that's kind of what we still do to this day. We also consider other factors more than just soil erosion. We also look to improve water quality, animal and plant health, and wildlife habitat. That's kind of the 5 major things we hit on. We meet with local landowners here in this county and basically develop a detailed conservation plan so that they have a guiding document that they can manage their property. And then we try to apply for grants and secure funds so that they can do different projects. If it's an eroding ditch, try to stop it, get it seeded down and stabilized. If it's a creek bank that's fallen off, trying to get it rocked and stabilized. Cross fencing operations for livestock producers, cover crops for row crop producers. We do a wide variety of things. And the past couple of years we've been able to secure approximately 200,000 in grants annually for landowners here. So, and the funds for this position could hopefully, you know, increase the amount of grant money that we can get into the county. So I'll entertain any questions at this time, if you have any.
Mr. Ford, go right ahead, please.
How will this $9,000 that you're requesting from the county court, how will that be used?
It'll be used for salary. You know, it's the individual that would fill this position would ideally be somebody that has computer skills and a background in agriculture knowledge. And so that $30,000 would strictly be for the salary for that position. NRCS, the federal portion of it, we provide the access to the network, the computers, all of that type of stuff. Though if we have a vehicle available, we'll be providing it to them. Odds are I'll transfer one from Lafayette that will stay here. I have 2 counties that I cover, Macon and Trousdale. So the funds will be strictly used for salary. Yes, sir.
How are these duties being handled now? Who is doing this now?
So we currently have myself and one other federal employee that works this work unit. And that's how we're working right now between Macon and Trousdale. And if we look at the amount of projects going through both counties, it's probably 75% of the workload is up there, probably 25 to 30% of the workload is here. So I do think that an individual staffed here full-time could increase that and better service the landowners here.
Mr. Gully?
So that kind of leads into my question of where I was wanting to go with that thought. This would be a full-time position in Trousdale County.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They would serve only Trousdale County then residents.
Yes, sir. That is correct. Yeah.
So where would they be located? This office or this?
They would be housed in the current NRCS office here. So we have it's the old State Farm building, if you're familiar with it.
Yes, sir.
So that the employee would be housed in that office.
Okay. Mr. Ford, I believe you jumped in there first.
Is this gonna continue on year after year?
The idea is that it will. To actually give you a firm answer 100% for certain, I cannot guarantee that, but I do not know of one that has been a cooperative agreement. That's what we call these positions. I'm not aware of one that has ever been started that has, been stopped because somebody stopped contributing money. So I would think it would be highly unlikely for that to happen. I think the other partners that are involved, Tennessee Department of Ag and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, they view it as a win because it's an employee that's meeting their same objectives and goals, but they don't hardly have as much money tied up in the position. So I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. They're looked on pretty favorably.
Any other questions? Mr. Clarity?
How long have you known this position has been needed?
Well, I've been here for 10 years, covering both counties, and I felt like we always could have honestly done a better job here by having somebody here, more frequently. But we make do with what resources we have.
Well, I think the question we just finished a budget cycle
Oh, yes.
where we
sir.
presented our budget. You're coming in here with asking us to tap into our reserve funds 3 weeks after we approved a final budget for the county. And we have always been very, I guess the word would be reticent to do that, to try to keep that from being too much of a problem. So I guess the question is, how long have you known that you were going to need this $9,000 possibly from us? Or for sure even?
I don't know the exact day I found out, but it was in June. It's when I found out. So unfortunately, it was a last minute call to me that, hey, there's some extra money that both partners are contributing for contribution agreement employees. We know there's a need in Trousdale County, and that's where we would like to target if you're interested. So
Okay.
if by all means, I would have had that here much sooner if I had known. So my
Okay.
apologies for that.
No, that was that. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Harsh, did you have a question? No.
Motion when you're ready.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ford.
I was just gonna ask you, $9,000 this year, what's it gonna be next year?
Well, we definitely hope it doesn't go down. When you have a matching grant, if it was to fall below 9, probably the state of Tennessee would probably have to. I don't want to speak for them. I'm not their representative, but odds are the Tennessee Department of Ag would probably have to drop that. There's some, I think, requirements on their end that they can't contribute more than the least contributing entity. So
What I'm asking is, do you see it being more next year than it is this year?
well, inevitably, I think at some point we probably would request additional money. I'll be 100% upfront. It seems like most of the positions in the state, actually, I don't know of one anymore that's not actually a county employee. I think Macon County had one of the last ones. It was not a full-time county employee. So there, a county benefits package that would go with that. And I would think at some point, if this is passed and we hire an individual that's doing a really good job and their performance warrants it, I would think if everybody's in favor, I don't want to speak for the Soil Conservation District, but that might be an option that we would ask for. So.
Any other questions? Mr. Harsh?
Move to approve this budget amendment.
You have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Ferguson grabs a second. We have a motion and a second. Let's try this electronic voting out. If you'll see your console in front of you, you'll see a green button to the left, a yellow one in the middle, and a red one on the right. Green is yes, yellow is abstain, red is no. If you would, go ahead and record your votes. All votes in. Anyone like to change their votes? You can push another button and it will change automatically. All votes in. Sue is not. We'll hit the green one. Well, it'll light up when you hit it. There we go. Okay. All votes in. Okay. Tally the votes.
9 yes, 1 no.
Is approved. This will go on to our full body at next Monday night's meeting. This committee will just make a recommendation to the full body for approval.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Okay, we'll move on to 10102R. This is county clerk's office to buy a printer. I believe it prints the decals so she can do them in-house. She has the money in her budget. We're moving it within her budget for this decal printer, $850. Mr. Ford, we have a motion to approve by Mr. Ford, second by Mr. Gully. Any questions on this one? All right, let's hit your votes. Let's practice. On the left is yes, on the right is red. To do it that time. Everybody in? All votes in? All votes in?
10 yes.
Okay. Motion does carry. Yes.
I forgot to mark the one to show the votes. I'm trying.
No. We still learning. Yeah. If you've got a question about it, please ask it. I got a lot of questions about it. Next one is BA 10103RG Sheriff Patrol. This is money coming out of the 10 cams. The sheriff is wanting to use his portion of that money to put heavy duty rugged laptops in all the patrol cars. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir. They'll basically have a system similar to the Tennessee Highway Patrol.
Yes. Okay. Any questions? The sheriff's here if you got questions about this. The 10 cams, restricted funds that are restricted to the sheriff's department. Already in the budget, it's just allocated to this as a line item. Mr. Walsh?
Sheriff, what are we gonna do with the laptops that we remove out of the patrol cars? Don't have any? So this is initial installation?
We don't have any right now. This is the first.
Yeah, we're only about 10 years behind on this. Okay. Mr. Buckmaster, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, are these laptops going to be fully functional while the vehicle's in motion?
Okay, the question was, well, you go ahead and repeat your question, Mr. Buckmaster.
Are these laptops going to be fully functional while the vehicle is in motion?
Oh, yeah, you can operate.
So they're going to drive and type on the keyboard?
No, we're not going to do that. That's illegal. No, our main reason for these is instead of going to the office, like you'll drive by and you see patrol cars sitting around at the station, you think you know, they're in there doing their reports. It takes 8 pages to do an accident report on Tennessee Titan and what they're going to be doing, instead of going to the station doing the reports, they'll be stationary out here in the public. They might be down 231, they might be in Cato or different areas, and they can do their reports at different locations and come and dump it in and make a print off the copies when they get back to the office.
Can
That's
they
just one of the
also,
uses.
will they also be able to access the databases to run a tag number without calling it in or something of that nature?
Well, we have to do that later. We can do that, but each person has to be certified to do it, to run their own through the CAD system. You just can't just run them if you want to. You got to be a certified operator.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Buckmaster? Mr. Gregory?
Do the accident reports?
No, they'll be doing more stuff than that. They'll be checking in and out. The county is going to a computerized payroll. And we're going to be checking in and out of our cars like 10/8, 10/7. When you come into work, going to work, that's going to be used for that also. It's going to have many uses for it.
Mr. Ferguson, you have a question? No?
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Burton makes the second. We have a motion to approve, send it to the full body by Mr. Ferguson with a motion with a second by Mr. Burton. Let's try this thing again. All in favor? Anyone wish to change their votes? Record the votes, please.
8 yes, 1 abstain, 1 no.
Does pass. We'll take it up on next week's business. Okay. I think that concludes our business for tonight. Was there anything from any of the other commissioners have anything you would like to bring forward? Yes, sir.
We'll record these votes. Where do you get the record of that, to who actually said yes, who said no? If the public asked.
I have it on this laptop and I can print it out or transfer it over to my email at my office.
All right, thank you.
It will not show up on the screen. I don't believe it is. I agree with those statements.
It may. We haven't figured out how to do that yet. That a good, okay. Come to our, pardon?
When we have an abstain, do we not have to have a reason for that abstain?
No, you can abstain from the vote. It will count as a no vote. You can abstain with cause where you state your cause for abstention.
Okay.
But you can do either one.
Okay.
I think. Okay. Item 7 on our agenda, public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments to anything that was on the Budget and Finance Committee meeting? Chris, did you have a question or want to say something? Please get to the mic.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Walsh because I was going to ask that same question when y'all were done. So about the recording the vote. So thank you for asking that.
I didn't know. I can't see it from here, so it didn't show on my screen either. So, like I say, we still got some things to do.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
this just, if anybody's having trouble seeing the screen because of the sun, let me know. There's a brightness setting on there and I can show you how to brighten up your screen. You'll be able to see it better.
On your desktop, if you're having trouble, if it's not bright enough. Anybody from the public? Okay. Item 8, Mr. Walsh.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Mr. Ford gets a second. All in favor, get up and leave. We got about 20 minutes before our next meeting.